Hello everyone, welcome back to my writing channel. I'm writer coach Tony, and tonight I'm going to discuss with you one of the more common questions I get when writing, research writing, and that's how to write a research proposal. So anyway, before I start, I'd like to give a shout out first to all our frontliners out there, to all our nurses friends, doctor friends, all the supermarket cashiers and bag boys. Um, we are one with you in our fight against the coronavirus. I hope everyone stays safe, and we are praying for you every day. So let's go back to my topic. It's how to write a research proposal. So before you do a thesis or dissertation, your your supervisor will ask you to write a research proposal. So the length varies depending on the university. Some universities ask only for 3 pages, 5 pages, but normally the ones we do, the most common ones that the ones I've coached, um, usually ask for 2,500 to 3,000 words. So um, that's about 10 pages to 12 pages. So that's a bit long. So the common question is, what comprises a research proposal? So there are three main things you put in a research proposal. The introduction part, that's number one. Number two is a literature review, a short literature review. And number three is a methodology. So those are the three things that you put in the research proposal. So the introduction part, the most important thing there is for me at least, is identifying the research gap and formulating your statement of the problem. So before you do your study, I strongly urge you to do a literature review. What I mean is, you read previous studies on the topic that you want. And there's another video we did before where we talked about your thesis topic. Actually, you can get your thesis topic from the recommendations part of most studies. Especially if you're doing a similar study, what you can do so that your study will not be an exact duplicate of another person's study, you check their recommendations. So you can find out what else you can contribute to that line of inquiry. So what I'm saying is, you have to identify your research gap, because without the research gap, there will be no point in doing your study. Because if somebody already did your study before, you'll just be replicating it, and you wouldn't be adding much to new research, which is really the goal for thesis and dissertation writing. So you really have to identify your research gap. So how do you do that? You can look at previous studies, and then you can tweak the respondents. No? So what I mean by respondents, who are you targeting when you study? For example, if they're studying, I'll just make a simple example. Like right now we're having this COVID-19 problem, and let's say you want to know the effect of COVID-19 on the elderly. So because what the WHO said was, there are more elderly people. I mean, if you're elderly, the higher the probability that you'll suffer from the coronavirus, while the more healthy ones, the younger ones, would be able not to show any of the symptoms. So if most studies will do the elderly thing, maybe your study can focus on another age group. It can be children or teenagers or young adults. So what I'm saying is, you can do a similar study, but focus on another maybe gender or age range or social status. So the possibilities are endless. Or another country, another district, a city. So the possibilities are endless. So you can tweak the research study so that because the idea is what may apply in another country may not apply to another country. So um, that's why you have to study your, maybe in your country, if that same idea works. No? Maybe what businesses work in China may not work in your city, wherever you are in the world. So that's why you can still replicate the study. That's why usually quantitative studies are good, because you can replicate them in another area of the world. So what I'm saying is that the research gap has to be something which has not yet been studied. That's why it says there's a gap. And you have to explain it clearly in your research proposal. And usually that comes inside the background of the study, and then as you go to the statement of the problem, you zero in on it before you state your statement of the problem. So research gap, very important. Second is a statement of the problem. So usually they do around 4 questions. So you ask the most pertinent questions about your topic. So you have to bear in mind that when you go to chapter 4, which is the presentation and interpretation of the raw data, you'll have to answer those questions. So as much as possible, don't put too many questions. Usually 3 or 4 is good. Because you have to remember you're under time constraints. And of course your resources, your time, your respondents, it's not infinite. So you have to make sure that whatever you're researching is feasible. So don't put too much baggage on yourself. No, zero in on the problem you want to study. So I'd recommend usually 3 or 4 questions for your statement of the problem, and it should clearly, all of them should be interrelated and support each other, and zero in on what you really want to study. So in other words, they have to be coherent and cohesive. Otherwise, if it's not, then most likely your supervisor will return your study back to you. Okay? So now we've discussed the introduction part. That's the 2 most important parts: are the statement of the problem and the identifying the research gap. Then usually research proposals have a very short lit review. So you just choose the most important studies you've read. The idea here is to show your supervisor that you found out what the research gap is. So you're going to say, oh, I found these studies about COVID-19 for the elderly in Italy, in the US, in France, in Spain, and then I want to do something for my country, for China, for Pakistan, for Taiwan, for Hong Kong. So you zero in on your own country. But you need the literature review to show to your teacher that there have been studies on this topic, but I want to concentrate on this area. So it supports whatever research gap you have identified. Okay? So that's basically the lit review. Usually how many? Some demand up to 30, 40 studies, but 20 is the usual number that we do. I mean, you have to look for 10 studies and 10 literature. So when I say literature, it can be newspaper articles, books, any credible information which is not a study. So you have 10 of that and then 10 studies. Okay? That's for your lit review. And they have to be very short, because normally I just allot 1,000 words. The clients, my students just allot 1,000 words for that part. 1,000, 1,500 words. Okay? So it's, because 2,000 words, sorry. Maybe just even 750 words. It's really, really short. You expand it when you write the whole thesis. Finally, you have to give your methodology. So you don't have to make it very long. Just say, what type of methodology you're doing. So normally, my students would usually do quantitative, like a big percent would do quantitative, but there are some who do qualitative, and there are some who do both quantitative and qualitative. And then, of course, there are some who do, other types, ethnographic. There are many other types of methodology actually, but it would really depend on your course of study. So usually the more strange ones come from engineering, from psychology. Their methodologies are a bit different because like for engineering, you really have to test something. For biology, you really have to do experimentation. No? But for other studies like social sciences, they usually do quantitative or qualitative studies. So you have to mention that in your methodology. Usually it's just like 3 to 4 page or 3 pages, 2 pages. Just say what you're going to do, while you respond. It's straight to the point. You don't have to elaborate yet because you're not doing the actual thesis. So those are the important things you have to have in your research proposal. So once again, that's identifying the research gap, formulating your statement of the problem. Number 3, coming up with your short lit review where all the studies and literature have to relate to your topic, and identify your methodology. Just make a short but clear methodology which will give your supervisor an idea on how you're going to do your study. So anyway, if you have any questions, please, you can either email me immediately at tonyfabe@gmail.com. That's TONYFABE@gmail.com. Or you can message me at WhatsApp. That's plus 63927 120 7166. Again, that's the plus sign, then 63927 120 7166. That's my WhatsApp. So you can communicate if you have any questions, or if you want any other how-tos in writing research, just contact me there. You can also make a comment, and please subscribe to my channel. So thank you very much. Take care, everyone. Keep safe. Let's fight this coronavirus together. Bye-bye, everyone.